Good day, everyone. Today's stories are brought to you by Malicious Compliance subreddit. With no further ado, let's get orgasm with rKush. Our first story today is posted by u/Jenner Saiz Kwa with the title, "We both know you don't have the time to read all that. Give me an A." Some very short context to the story. I'm not a natural citizen. I'm a naturalized immigrant. I was 6 when I arrived and understandably had issues with the language and was assigned ESOL classes. Once those were finished, I made it my goal to never let anything below a 90% on any written assignment that was graded. And right up until college, I'm very proud to say I never got below a 94% on any papers or essays or other writing assignments. This happened a while back in college. I was forced to take a critical writing class and a multidisciplinary too. It was fun getting to interact with people not in my major at the time. Unfortunately, it also meant I was grouped with people who had no idea what I was doing, nor did I know what they were doing. I get into this classroom and it's very open. The campus I go to is notorious for constantly renovating buildings in the 7 years I was there. There was never a time that construction work wasn't on site. This building had just been erected and was a brand new science building. Inside the science building were some modular classrooms. The campus's attempt to change things up and get rid of the traditional lecture style of teaching by forcing the professors to walk among the students and teach. It was meant to encourage engagement and ease of access to students. Anyone who has sat in a lecture hall know how irritating it is when Stacy in the middle of the row has a question during the exam and the professor or one of their TA has to grind their butt on everyone's exam and unceremoniously twerk on some poor soul's head as they squat down to listen to the question, just so they can answer with, "Do your best," then leave their butt print on the exams again as they sidle their way out. This class began with the professor trying her best to be all fun and encouraging. Unfortunately, her method of fun and encouraging was to treat a bunch of adults like they were in grade school by making them all get up and share their names and fun facts at 7:20 p.m. After this debacle, when we were all ready to get on with this first class of the semester, she launches into the syllabus and explains things. She states that, similar to standard lecture classes, which usually have 3 to 4 exams total, her class will have 4 papers to be turned in over the course of the semester. However, if the students weren't happy with their grade, they had the options to either rewrite 2 papers once over or rewrite the same paper twice if their second attempt didn't warrant a good enough grade. These rewrites could be submitted whenever the student wanted. It sounded like a fantastic idea, and the way she sold it, it sounded like a surefire way not to fail. I was confident that I didn't need those chances to rewrite anything, and after class, I asked the professor if I could set up a gamble with her. Given my schedule at the time, a warehouse job, a full-time job at an urgent care, another part-time job at a CPA's office, and a full college workload, I asked if I could use the rewrites as an extension. It wouldn't be indefinite, but rather each would count as a week. If a paper was due in February the 7th, I could theoretically use up those 2 rewrites and extend the due date till February the 21st. Initially, she refused, but I explained to her that my father has just passed away, and given that it was sudden, we hadn't had the money available to pay the funeral home for their services and didn't have the money to travel back home to perform last rites, so I needed those 3 jobs to make ends meet. She understood and made a note due to my circumstances. However, she did have a noticeable change in her demeanor towards me after learning of what I did for work. I just assumed she was just being somber due to learning about my father's passing. Well, in comes my first paper due. I did my usual thing. I wrote my paper, edited, gave it a day, reread, and edited again. Checked with rubric and re-edited. I was satisfied and turned it in a week later. She drops this paper with a big fat 68 on it. I'm like, "Excuse the F out of me?" I go and speak to her at the end of the class and she said I hadn't understood what the paper was about. She was asking the students to write about how people in my field transition from school to career. I explained to her that it was very normal, in some cases expected, to post your school projects on your portfolio while you worked on other projects on your own to hone or improve your skills. She just wasn't able to understand that and very tactfully, but obviously said that I was just making it up because no company would hire an individual based on their school projects or homework assignments. She then stated that she would be canceling our agreement and going back to the original that she had with everyone else. I told her I wanted to discuss it with her a little bit more, but the only options she gave me were very conveniently during my work hours. I even asked for video calls and she said her only available hours were during my warehouse work hours. Just the way she said it, I could tell she didn't think much of my choices in work. I accepted mostly due to exhaustion, but I was this close to getting through schooling with not a single paper below 90%, and I wasn't about to have this woman ruin it for me now. So I met with her at the end of the next class and asked her when the rewrite was due. She printed out a rubric for me to follow along. I asked her if she wouldn't mind signing it, because it has happened to a friend of mine before where she written something up following the rubric only to have the professor accuse her of falsifying a rubric to skate by. She agreed to sign. The new rubric for my rewrite stated that it had to be a specific font, single-spaced, a specific font size, references in MLA style, etc., etc., etc. The only thing that jumped out to me was a minimum of 5 pages. That seemed a bit strange to me because I've always used the subtractive method of writing. Word vomit on the page, then cut out what's redundant. I was intending on asking her about it and walked to her office. However, she was in there talking about one of her students who was pretentious and trying to fit in where she didn't belong because she was just a label class woman. The person she was talking to didn't sound all that comfortable, but she insisted on getting her little casual rage rant out, going on about how dare I try to readjust her rewrite plan to suit my needs, that it wasn't her fault that I had to get crappy jobs, that she wasn't to blame, that I clearly didn't have the brains to do anything else or find a higher paying job. I didn't question it, however. I was told the due date was the end of the semester. She said she'd end the class about a week early so she would have that week to read everyone's final papers and submit grades on time. I was welcome to drop my paper off at any time during that week, and I agreed. Went through the semester and did perfectly fine on the other 2 papers within my personal requirements and settled for the third. I was working on that paper as and when I could, emailing sections to myself when I was texting at work or taking a break and pulling out my laptop. Finally, I was done. I walked into her office with about 18 hours left before grades had to be submitted. She had hitched on a friendly smile and said, "Hey there, I'm glad you came by. I was worried perhaps you didn't want to rewrite after all." "Oh no, I did. I was just at work is all." Yeah, how's that going?" "It's fine actually. I'm getting promoted soon. So I actually have to go. I just came by to drop off my paper." "Oh, of course, the warehouse job." "Yep." I swear that damn would have had me gritting my teeth if I didn't have what was in my backpack. She holds out her hand while looking at the other papers, sort of with this "I'm so busy that I don't even have time to look at the likes of you" vibe. So I pulled out my paper from my binder and dropped all 36 pages of it in her hand, all single-spaced, all the correct font and font size, everything within parameters. She stared at it and then at me, and I just stared right back. "You said a minimum of 5. What's this nonsense? I would never assign a minimum page count. It said maximum." If you check the 37th page, you see it's a copy of the rubric that you signed. And she flipped to it and realized she hadn't read her own rubric clearly. She done screwed up. So to save face, she started rifling through my pages and nodding and random bits here and there. "Okay, I give it a read and get your grade in by the end of tonight." I just rolled my eyes at her and said, "Look, we both know you don't have the time to read all that. Just give me an A." We both were glaring daggers at each other and she finally just gave in and scribbled a 98% on it and said she couldn't explain away an error-free 36-page paper when hundreds of other students submitted much shorter pages with grammatical errors. I agreed, packed up my stuff, and told her that I could easily have reported her and used the other professor as evidence of the way she was talking about me behind my back. She got so incredibly pale and tried to call me as I left. B word, I'm Indian. Academics is in my blood. Don't test me, you fail miserably. Anyway, I got my A. Well done, girl. She made her douchey professor to give her an A without even reading her paper first. And good job staying sharp at school while working 3 jobs at the same time. Respect. Now to the second story taking place in a software company with the title Take Suspicious Persons to the Front Desk If They're Not Wearing a Name Badge? You bet, the party is on. Hosted by BYU/Bill Levin's Trial Fan. This happened in the mid-90s when I was working for a software company. Said software company was a major provider of logistic management software for the trucking and shipping industry at the time. They were founded by two computer science college students in their 60s who were able to build the company into a multi-million-dollar company. Both gentlemen were wonderful to work with and were still there when I started working for the company. One took the sales side and managed the sales marketing efforts. The other managed the software development teams. Together, they created a juggernaut of a software company. The gentleman who managed the software development teams, the official title was CEO, retired after putting in 25 years. We gave him a heartfelt send-off, with many of us being in tears at his departure. That's how much we loved him. They hired a new CEO who didn't come from a software development background. Huge red flag. He didn't understand the software development cycle. The new CEO also regularly treated people poorly, insulting them in meetings in front of their coworkers, berating them, setting unreasonable deadlines without consulting with the people who actually did the work to see if the said deadline was even attainable. That's not how you motivate software developers who have high levels of skill and experience. All the developers need to do is reach out to a headhunter, a slang term for employment recruiter. Say, I have this amount of years of experience with major logistic management software company to get a better job with more money. Suffices to say, I wasn't impressed. After experiencing the setting unreasonable deadlines issue in my project, which resulted in me calling our customers behind his back to negotiate a reasonable deadline, something I was successful in doing that he never found out about. I was looking for ways to pay back. The new CEO started talking about how insecure our facility was and how we needed a new engine security system to reduce the risk of corporate espionage. We all figured he meant a Mackie card with a gate, something state-of-the-art for engine security. But no, he was cheap. His idea of state-of-the-art security was giving us name badges. That's it. Not even a photo ID, just a badge with our names on it. We were to wear them so that they were visible. He sent out an email stating that if we saw anyone throughout our campus without a name badge after a specific date, we were to treat him like they were a suspicious person. When we found someone without a name badge, we were to immediately escort them to the front desk. The new CEO and high-level management had their offices in the front desk area. This is important later in this story. The trouble is, the entire rollout for the name badges was delayed due to production issues. Said deadline date came and went. About 1/3 of our employees didn't have a name badge yet. The new CEO had also not rescinded his original email order regarding taking suspicious persons without a name badge to the front desk. Hence, malicious compliance. After that deadline, I was walking to the snack area and met one of the software development managers without a name badge. I initially made the joke, "Hey Dave, you look like a suspicious person." We both laughed a bit. He commented on how terrible the whole name badge thing was, and started walking back to his area of the campus. I was suddenly struck by an idea. I went back to him and said, "Hey Dave, you are a suspicious person. I need to take you to the front office." At first, he bugged. "No, really, I don't have time for this. I need to get back to work." I whispered, "Hey Dave, listen to me for a sec. Envision this. I take you to the front desk. You go into the lounge there, take a smoke break. We had lounges for smokers and non-smokers. Drink a Coke and watch some TV, and all on company time. Heaven only knows how long you'll be there before someone notices you're gone. Could be hours getting paid for doing nothing on company time." Dave's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "You're right," he replied. "I guess I am a suspicious person. You better escort me to the front office." So he reached out his arm to me, and arm in arm, we both walked to the front office where I left Dave to take a well-deserved extended break on company time. Dave was the perfect first person for me to do this because he was one of the software development manager, as I came across others without name badges, insisting that I needed to escort them to the front office. I told them, this is a gag against the CEO. Dave is in on it. He's already there in the smoking lounge. As soon as others heard that Dave was in on the gag, they willingly complied and followed me to the front desk. I didn't stop until I hunted down 50 coworkers and taken them to the front desk. We had a staff of around 250 employees. By the time I dropped off my last person, it was quite the party atmosphere in the front desk area. People laughing, joking, drinking soft drinks, and eating snacks. It was getting really loud. I looked at this jolly scene and thought to myself, my work here is done, and went back to my desk. 1 hour goes by. Finally, the new CEO emerges from his office after hearing nearly 2 hours of this cacophony, angrily asking, "What on earth are all of you doing here? Why aren't you working?" They all replied, "Bill's Evans trial fan said that we were suspicious persons because we didn't have our name badges, so she brought us here." The new CEO got flustered and said, "Well, go back to work." The crowd disperses. Sitting at my desk, I get a phone call from new CEO. "Bill Levin's trial fans, come to my office right now." Off I went to his office, taking a printed copy of his original email directive guarding people without name badges with me. I sat down in front of his desk and new CEO, looking extremely irritated, asked me, "What do you think you're doing?" I calmly replied, "I'm following your orders, sir," and handed him the email of his original name badge directives. In reading his email, he immediately realized he couldn't do anything against me. He got even more flustered and sputtered, "Well, stop following my orders." I again calmly replied, "Sir, may I remind you that you ordered me not to follow your orders at the time that is most convenient for me to do so?" His face looked like he was in a brain lock that he didn't know how to respond. No, go back to work." I experienced no repercussions from that incident. Other orchestrated incidents followed, but they were behind the scenes practical jokes, not malicious compliance. I left a year later for greener work pastures. About 6 months after I left, the new CEO was forced to retire under threat of dismissal. "Stop following my orders and then go back to work." If my boss tell me that, I would have gone home. But after reading the story, I have one little question. Did the CEO have a name badge? And if he did, would he be invited to the awesome office party? That brings us to the end of our videos today. Thank you for listening. Good day, everyone.